In this sketch, I'm going to show you how to make a fabulous paella. Now, we're not going to take all the ingredients and chuck them into a pan, whack it into the oven, and hope that they all come out at the same time. They're not going to come out at the same time. We're going to use chicken and shrimp, and they're going to cook at different rates from the rice. So we're going to pre-cook the chicken, and we're going to cook the shrimp separately. This will ensure that the rice, chicken, and shrimp will all be perfectly cooked, and this will be the best paella you have ever tasted.
Oh my God.
It's like a miracle.
Now, I recommend using brined chicken thighs for better flavor. But if you do brine the chicken, the skin will absorb a great deal of moisture and it will be hard to get a good crispy skin. So here's my solution to that. Put the thighs, after they're brined, on a rack inside a sheet pan like this, and put them skin side up in the refrigerator overnight. That will give the skin a chance to dry out, get back to normal, and you'll get a nice crispy skin that way. First, let's prep the shrimp. I'm going to peel these, and I'm going to throw the peels into a pot, to which I'm later going to add some stock. I want to leave the tails on, but I want to get the shells in here. So just peel them like this. It's very simple. Save all the shells. If you had them with the heads on, that would be terrific because that's got a lot more flavor. I wasn't able to get them with the heads on, but I recommend it if you can. All right. Continue like this. And then once you're finished, grab a paring knife and butterfly them. Now, as soon as you've got your shrimp peeled and deveined, put them back into the refrigerator immediately. We're going to be doing other things for a while, and you don't want them to get to room temperature. You want to keep them cold. All right, now that we've got our shrimp bits here, as much as we've got, we want to add 4 cups of chicken broth, preferably homemade chicken broth, nice rich stuff, and a cup of white wine or dry vermouth. Either one is fine. To that, I would add about a teaspoon of ground coriander seed. That's about it. And a good pinch of gold or saffron. This will give it a good flavor and a beautiful color that will color the rice. It's really good stuff. It's fragrant. It has an indescribable aroma. It's also very, very expensive. So if you don't want to use it, you could substitute a little bit of turmeric. Get this on the heat, bring it to a simmer, and let it go for, I would say, 20 minutes. Okay, now this is a nice hot pan, and we want to put in a good amount of butter, whole unsalted butter, and don't worry if the milk solids darken on you, because that's going to add color to the dish. In fact, if they even turn black, that's quite all right. It won't have a bad flavor. In fact, beurre noir, or black butter, is an ingredient in a lot of French dishes. People like it. It has a good flavor, so don't let that worry you at all. It's very important that the pan be hot. All right, don't crowd the pan. Just use your judgment with that. Give them plenty of space. And I would say in a pan this size, 4 thighs is about enough for each batch. Don't disturb them, don't fiddle with them, don't fool with them. Let them lay in there, skin side down, with as much heat as you can get on them, until you've got a really nice crispy crust before you turn them onto the meat side. Now these thighs have been brined, and they don't require seasoning. However, if you don't brine them, you need to season the meat side with salt and pepper before you turn them. And then you should also season the skin side. These don't need it. They are, in fact, already seasoned. Now, this is what you want to see. That is the color you're looking for. Those are beautifully brown. And when we put these into the oven later, that skin is going to be so crisp and so delicious, you're not going to believe it. Now, when the last of them are finished, you're going to have a huge amount of fat in the pan. We're going to pour off most of it, but I don't want you to throw it away just yet. You may use it later on. This is exactly what they ought to look like. They're about halfway cooked. And there you can see a great deal of fat. I'm going to pour that into a bowl, and I'm going to keep it handy as I continue cooking. I want to leave about a tablespoon, or maybe more, maybe 2 tablespoons of the fat. This is brown butter and chicken fat, and it's absolutely delicious. All right, next it's time to cook the rice. We want to put that in there and saute it briefly until it becomes opaque. Move it around in the fat and give it a couple of minutes, and in a little while those rice grains are going to change and become opaque. All right, now the rice has become opaque, and it's time for us to add the liquid. You'll notice that the thighs, as they've rested, have expressed a fair amount of liquid, so let's include that in our calculations. I want 3 cups of liquid for 1.5 cups of rice. Now here is the shrimp stock with the chicken broth. It's fabulous. It's got the shrimp scent. It's got the seasoning from coriander and saffron. It smells wonderful, just wonderful. And now I want 1/3 cup of basic tomato sauce. You could use chopped tomatoes if you've got them in season. And finally, I'm going to put in the vegetables. Now, I cheated, and while the camera was turned off, I put most of this into a food processor and bashed it up because I needed to save time in order to get this done. And you're going to see in a moment that the result is really unsatisfactory. You really should chop them up by hand. I normally do, but because of the time situation here, I cheated. So take a look at this. The ones that I cut up in the beginning were on top. They look all right, but some of this is like mush. I'm really not happy with it. And there are some great big bits in there that I'm not sure will cook completely. All right, so now we want to boil this and let it go until the rice absorbs a fair amount of the liquid. Then it'll be ready for the oven. But as you can see, this now looks pretty good. You can probably get away with starting to put the chicken thighs on there. And that's the last thing we need to do before we put this into the oven. Now, arrange the thighs so that they don't touch. You need a little space between them. They are going to protect the rice, and they do need to cover it to some extent. At the same time, if they're too tightly packed, steam will not escape, and that will cause a steamed rubbery chicken. So there's 10. I think that's a pretty good amount. All right, so that's it. This is ready for the oven. The oven should be preheated, ready to accept it. As this cooks, the chicken juices are going to moisten the rice, and it's going to be absolutely fabulous. All right, now here's how you deal with the shrimp. You want butter in the pan, and you can see that the milk solids have just begun to darken, and that's when you want to put them in. Just lay them in on their sides, like this. And you've got to watch them very closely. This one, you can see, hasn't really begun to cook. This one, on the other hand, has cooked almost to the middle, so that one is ready to be turned. Look at this one. That's also cooked nearly to the middle. Time to turn it. Same here. This one, I would say, leave it a little longer. That one is ready to go. Can you see that it's just barely raw inside? It's time to pull it. This one, again, absolutely perfect. Take it out. Deglaze the pan using your chicken shrimp stock, the broth that you made. I would say use about 1/2 cup. And don't forget, with fish, seafood, whatever, a splash of white wine. Now for a little added luxury and flavor, I would add a pinch of saffron to this. It's expensive, I know. It's painful. It's so good. All right, now go ahead and cook this until it reduces by about 2/3. All right, the chicken shrimp stock has reduced nicely. We've got brown bits from the shrimp. We've got saffron in there. I'm going to tip in any liquid that the shrimp have expressed while they're resting. As you can see, there's a little bit, and it's got plenty of flavor. Now it's time to create a pan sauce. We're going to do that with butter. I know butter is notoriously unstable, but you can emulsify it again later if you have a problem. It's not difficult. Just work in more butter. I'm going to put in about 3 tablespoons of butter to begin, and we'll whisk that to create a sauce. It's going to be a light-bodied sauce, and it's going to be absolutely delicious. Look at the color. You can see the saffron more now that you've got the butter in there. Now that's a nice light pan sauce, and that's what I want. You might want it a little thicker. Just go ahead and add more butter. It's no problem. I wouldn't thicken it with flour or anything like that. All right, that's a beautiful pan sauce. Keep it just barely warm, and if it breaks, just work in more butter. It's no problem. Another thing you can do with a butter sauce to make it more stable, you could add a tablespoon or so of heavy whipping cream. That's highly processed, and it's broken down and emulsified very well, and it will act as a liaison. Paella is finally done. It looks really good, I think. And it's time to warm the shrimp up. Just toss them in that light sauce to reheat them. It'll only take a moment, but make sure you coat them well. Now, I haven't seasoned the shrimp yet, so we need to taste this and make sure that it's all right. Let's give it a taste. Definitely needs a bit of salt. The chicken, of course, has plenty of salt from being brined. And the rice doesn't need seasoning because we used our own homemade chicken broth, which was well seasoned to begin with, so that's fine too. All right, now just scatter these on top of the paella. And now you've got some pan sauce that's got a great shrimp flavor and the saffron in it. Go ahead and spoon that over the chicken. All right. For a little bit of garnish, a little bit of beauty, I like to add something green on top. This is a combination of chopped parsley and chopped cilantro. It's about 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley and about a 1/4 teaspoon cilantro. I don't think you should use too much cilantro. It's very overpowering, and it's such a cliche of, ethnic dining. I mean, it's really, but it works nicely here if you control it. With a little green on it, it really looks beautiful. The only thing I think that you could add, if you wished, to make it even more attractive, would be a few tomato wedges. But I wouldn't do that unless they're in season, and right now they're not. I'm going to go ahead and try some. Let's try one of these thighs. A couple of pieces of shrimp. And most important thing, this is a rice dish after all. Let's see how the rice came out. I think it came out pretty well, but we'll have to see. All right, rice first. Let's see. It's hot. That is splendid. You can taste the shrimp really nicely. Cooking those shrimp shells in the broth, that really brings the flavor right into the rice. It's absolutely fabulous. The chicken broth was already seasoned. This doesn't need anything. It doesn't need any salt. It doesn't need anything. Fabulous. All right, let's have these shrimp. I think these are cooked perfectly, but we'll find out. That is so juicy and tender. Melts in your mouth. Absolutely fantastic. And now, let's cut off a piece of this chicken. No, that's beautiful. Look at that. That's nice and juicy. Plenty of moisture in there. It's perfectly cooked. There's nothing raw in the middle. It's just right. If you do it exactly the way I've shown you, you're going to find that every ingredient will be cooked exactly right. The chicken will be done just right. Now, thighs need to cook a little bit more than breasts and other parts. The shrimp is just unbelievably good. If you cooked it on top of the paella, it would be destroyed. The rice is perfectly cooked. Everything is just wonderful here. All right. Taste test. Gorgeous. It's moist, succulent. It hasn't lost all of its fat. It's still got that succulence from the fat. The brining does a wonderful job of making it taste more like itself. It's got wonderful flavor, doesn't need any seasoning. Your family, your guests are going to love this. So please give it a try. I know it's a fair amount of trouble, but if you're an experienced cook, you keep 3 or 4 things going at once, it's not going to bother you. This is maybe the best rice dish I've ever tasted. I hope you'll agree. Cheers.